Yeah. Hi guys, and welcome back to Conscientious Cosmos. I'm back with another video, and this is gonna be fun. I feel like these are like the main topics of astrology. So we're gonna be discussing the planets, and we're gonna be starting with my personal fave, Venus, because I'm a Venusian ruled being. But we're gonna go a little bit deeper into it, of course, because when we talk about the cosmos, it's very important to remain conscientious so that, we can tap into the more subconscious, subliminal aspects of ourselves. The more you know, the more you know. So, this will be from a Hellenistic perspective, but a large part of the history that I'll be talking about will include some of the Arabic astrologers, Mesopotamian, Sumerian, and those alike. So, main topics that we'll discuss are desire, grace, power, the art of glamour as well, and not just the art, but the magic behind it. So, let's get right into it. So, in Hellenistic astrology, Venus was known as Aphrodite to the Greeks, Ishtar or Inanna in the older Mesopotamian world, and al-Zuhara in Arabic astrology. And I want to name what this talk is really about because a lot of what people think about Venus when it first pops in their head is love and romance, and that very much is true. Venus is known as this power of attraction and instinct to harmonize and the ability to receive and to choose pleasure, oftentimes without apology, and to shape beauty into a force that changes outcomes as well. I'm also going to speak about Venus as something that I've practiced, not just studied, because Venus is continuing to help me glamour myself and love myself and master myself. And the archetypes of it can be used in that way. Glamoring myself is more than just what I put on my body. It's oftentimes how I feel inside. It's how I carry myself. It's how I present. It's my shadow work as well. How I refine my energy and how that refinement changes how people respond to me, for sure, and how I use people's perception of me to leverage how I move through the world. And perception as leverage is not something that I necessarily came up with. Of course, there's nothing new under the sun, but there are people out there that have helped me greatly who embody different archetypes of Venus. So, and one of them we'll be talking about today. So, we'll cover what Hellenistic astrologers said Venus does, Venus's deeper history, especially in Sumerian and Mesopotamian traditions, astronomical phenomena, morning star, evening star, the Venus rose. Some of you might have heard of it or not. That's why we're discussing it. And the descent motif, and I love magic. Listen, I'm a believer of mermaids and the siren. I was watching H2O just add water, got myself a little mermaid tail. So when we talk about stories and archetypes of Venus, it's so much more than just symbolic tales to me. That those are, in a large part, esoteric truths that can be seen today still in this world. So the descent of Inanna's underworld journey as a Venus teaching, and Taurus and Libra archetypes, of course, Venusian ruled signs, Hellenistic style, and a few key Arabic astrology perspectives because they were on the money with some of them. And also, like I mentioned before, Venus in glamour magic as a tool for self-mastery. And then, of course, I mentioned it before, shadow work. The Venus shadow being Lilith a lot of the times, and this kind of unpunishable woman archetype, and how that contrasts with the oftentimes foggy, boundary dissolving Neptunian vibe people often romanticize. And Neptunian vibe has to do with Venus being exalted in the sign of Pisces. So, yeah. So, from a Hellenistic worldview, there are terms like sect, um, uh, Venus as a benefic, and the social reality around that. So in Hellenistic astrology, Venus is one of the two benefics, Venus and Jupiter, but benefic doesn't always mean easy. It tends to mean that Venus tends to bind, unite, stabilize, and pleasure. She promotes agreement, sweetness, and the social glue that makes life livable. And binding today in one's society can be very dangerous. You see it a lot with women who bind themselves to, I was almost disrespectful, but you see women binding themselves to essentially what is the village idiot. And that can create a lot of ruin and further demise for a woman that was seeking that agreement and that sweetness. And oftentimes the fog, fear, obligation, guilt is the social glue. And though that shadow side of Venus, Lilith, is what breaks down that fogginess, or oftentimes is what clears the fog, or what lights it on fire and takes in all the oxygen from it, and it really is very nuanced and won't be able to be fully covered in this 1 hour video, but those are some things to think about from like a broader, especially more modern view. So Hellenistic astrologers, they also tracked planets by sect, day charts and night charts. Essentially, that's what sect means. So Venus is a nocturnal planet, more naturally at home in night charts, where Venus's gift can feel more instinctive and more embodied in the night. So in the night, and as a nocturnal planet, I mentioned that Venus is exalted by the planet. Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces, but Venus is also in her joy in a moon sign, or when the moon is in the sign of Venus, or planet Venus, or signs that are Venusian ruled. So in the night, Venus rules arts of attraction, what draws you in, similar to how the moon will draw in the tides. It's what softens you, what makes you say yes a lot of the time. You can even think about it of like people making love at night. That often is emblematic of some of those themes. In the older world, Venus had very concrete topics of relationships, marriage, but also alliances. Marriages were often seen as political alliances anyways, so especially because marriage as an institution was made for those political alliances, for the upper echelon of society, kings, queens, nobles. It's only like a recent phenomenon that marriage was given to the masses. And that's a whole nother thing. But that's astrology aside. That's more sociological, but we can get into that another day. Alliances, reputation, adornment, negotiation. Think of Libra, balancing the scales, law, pleasant living, luxury, perfumes, textiles, jewelry, music, dance, ornamentation, the skills of social survival. Libra, like if you look at most politicians' charts, they are going to have significant Libra placements. You can, I would, yeah, I would bank on that for sure. Because in those environments, people need to charm. They need to know when to charm. They need to know when to soothe. They need to know when to reconcile. It's not always perfect, obviously, but the masses are pretty, how do I say, influenced. So knowing those slight things, or even just what you wear or how you orient yourself, the relationships that you keep can influence these, how powerful or valuable your skills of social survival are. So Venus is also a planet of choice, not just being liked. Venus is discernment. Intuition and discernment work together. Discernment is usually based in morals, biases, the knowledge that you've gathered. It makes you ask questions of like, what do I value? What do I select? What do I refuse? The more intuitive parts of it, discernment and intuition work together, but the intuitive parts of it probably won't have you asking these questions at all. You'll just feel it. And if we really want to understand Venus fully, you have to go further back than Greece and Rome, because Venus is very ancient as a planet, especially like before humans even walked this earth, before most animals were even here. It goes very, very further back. But in terms of humans being here, Mesopotamian and Sumerian roots, Inanna, Ishtar, are kind of like the earliest significations of what the planet Venus is, or the archetypes of it. So long before Venus was Venus, people watched the brightest wandering star and built myth. So it's 6 p.m. where I'm at right now, and in about an hour or so, I'm going to be able to see Venus, the evening star, as the first star. I love, love, love that view. There's no better view for me than walking outside and seeing that beautiful, bright star, and I know it's Venus. So this built a lot of myth and the calendar itself and the meaning around it. And in Mesopotamia, Venus is associated, like I mentioned before, with Inanna, Sumer, and Ishtar, which is more the Akkadian and Babylonian era. So what matters is that Inanna and Ishtar isn't only a love goddess, she has sexual sovereignty, power, she represents war, kingship, fertility, civilization's glamour, the ability to captivate crowds, sway rulers, and move history. These earlier societies, and even further back than Mesopotamian Sumer, you see more of the how a matriarchal society kind of dictated things. There was still power. There was still war. Matriarchal societies does not mean a sense of egalitarianism. There was still war. There was still power. There's still hierarchy. And again, that ability to captivate the crowds, to sway rulers, to move history. Venus was tracked carefully because the cycle is dramatic. She disappears. She returns. She switches sides of the sun. She comes back as a different expression, morning star versus evening star. And in ancient cosmology, this wasn't just astronomy, it was a story of transformation. So Venus in Mesopotamian context is not passive sweetness, it's more magnetism with teeth. It's the beauty that commands, desire that reorganizes social order. And we can anchor that mythic power in the sky, what Venus actually does astronomically. So Venus in the sky, morning star, evening star, the Venus rose. The Venus rose, before that, Venus is seen as a inferior planet, meaning it stays close to the sun from our perspective. That's why Venus is usually seen either just before sunrise morning star, or just after sunset, evening star. These are not just poetic labels, they're different modes. So, evening star Venus is this alluring, receptive, social, sensual, harmonizing. It draws people towards sweetness, artistry, romance, enjoyment, aesthetic fulfillment. And morning star has the qualities of being bold, initiating, sharpened, desire that goes after what it wants, charisma, oftentimes with the direction and a sense of like, I know my value embodiment. And you can kind of see the more like yin and yang, masculine and feminine aspects of that. So the Venus rose it completes itself. If you look it up, it's so beautiful. I'll look it up so that you can see a visual because it's really beautiful. So over 8 Earth years, Venus's repeating pattern against the zodiac, it forms a five-fold symmetry. And it's often depicted like a pentagram rose pattern. So symbolically, it's Venus showing us that attraction isn't random. It has this sacred geometry where it's patterned, it's cyclical, and it's very rhythmic as well. So Venus rose pattern. Let me show this to you. She's so beautiful. I don't do tattoos, but I would get this tattooed on me. Isn't it gorgeous? It's so beautiful. That was by Brian Coberlane. Yeah. So think about it. Your tastes, your desires, even the way that you glow, those things have seasons. And Venus teaches timing. It's not just be beautiful, but be beautiful on purpose and on time. That's kind of what glamour magic is beautiful on purpose, glamoring on purpose, inside and out, outside and in. As above, so below, as within, so without. So this is kind of where that underworld story belongs, because Venus doesn't shine uninterrupted, but she also disappears. So the descent into the underworld, Inanna as a Venus initiation, there's a well-known myth that in myth, okay, this is also my favorite part. This is why I say I believe in magic. Do you believe in magic? So, and I also love etymology as well, okay? The etymology of myth comes from the ancient Greek word muthos, meaning speech, word, story, even fable. Okay, but it's like if you've ever watched Castlevania, then it's the speakers. It's the people whose traditions and history were passed down through oral teachings. And this was kind of standard because, paper wasn't really, around until, well, you've got Egypt, okay, it was there. But then Mesopotamian and Sumerian traditions, they didn't really have that. They had, you have the emerald tablets, you have I'm blanking on it, but the infamous stories that were written on rock. So I wholeheartedly believe that myth is just storytelling, and that storytelling has a lot of symbolism that reflects real world realities and happenings. So Inanna's descent into the underworld, and whether you take it literally or symbolically, it is definitely an archetypal Venus teaching. So in the story, Inanna's descent is required to remove her adornments at each gate, crown, jewelry, garments, until she stands bare. And that's a Venus lesson. What remains when glamour is stripped? Like I said, it's inside and out, visual, but also what is, how grounded is the individual on the inside? They're in their mind, in their heart, in their intuition. Because Venus, again, it's not just decoration. Venus is an inherent value. It's the sovereignty that comes from that. It's the inner yes and no. So the underworld Venus moment is the season where attraction not dries up, but you know, there's symbolism behind the word dries up. So think about that. It's the season where you stop being mirrored. It's the season where what used to charm people no longer works. It's the season where you face raw truth. What do I desire now? What do I value now? Who am I without performance? And here's the initiation. Inanna does not return unchanged. The return is not back to normal. It's a redesigned Venus. So I've had Venus underworld seasons. So times where I couldn't rely on being liked, being chosen, being approved of, because, and I'm in that season right now, because I quite frankly don't give two rats' asses about about being liked, about being chosen, about being approved of, because I'm a young woman. I'm only 24, but I see these examples of women in life online, or even in my personal life, where they've neglected self-mastery. And I don't want to end up like some of the cautionary tales that I see around me. I want to ascend. I know it's not going to be easy, like the tale and descent of Inanna into the underworld says. It's not going to be easy at all. I'm going through, just so many things. They don't make me sad or anything, but they make me reflect a lot. There's been a lot of introspection again. I have all of these beautiful things on the inside, but what is that without my introspection? It's nothing. It's nothing. So now that we have the sky and myth, let's go into the Hellenistic archetypes that most people, like to talk about, Taurus and Libra. So Venus's domiciles in Hellenistic astrology, Taurus and Libra as archetypes. So in Hellenistic astrology, Venus rules two signs, Taurus and Libra, two different homes, two different Venus languages. So Taurus as embodiment, nourishment, magnetic stability. Taurus is fixed earth. Venus can show up here as sensuality, bodily intelligence, comfort, pleasure, food, touch, scent, texture, loyalty, patience, cultivating value over time, craft, artistry, the slow build. I love all of these things. I'm a Taurus sun, so I feel this very much. Yes. Yes. So Taurus as Venus archetype says, I don't chase, I cultivate, I make my life delicious and stable, and what's meant for me is drawn to me. And sometimes it's not just about sitting there and being passive. We can go out there and get it, honey, because listen, Taurus is the bull. Taurus is a hard motherfucking worker. And the shadow Taurus can be, staying too long because comfort is addictive. Absolutely. There have been many, many things that I've been addicted to in the past that I've had to squash in order to ascend. And oftentimes that is what the descent into the underworld is for, is to strip yourself of your addictions and to, the physicality of them. And what's left is like the mental side behind addiction. That shit is tough. That shit is tough. Anybody that's dealt with any sort of addiction, whether it be your phone addiction, whether it be drugs, whether it be alcohol, whether it be addiction to suffering and drama and gossip, or a particular person, when you get rid of the physicality of that, this is why some people go insane, because they don't replace it. Again, it's like I always like to say, when you take something out, you need to replace it like in Indiana Jones. You don't have to replace it with another physical thing. Sometimes that helps, but oftentimes you can get addicted to that other physical thing. It's best to strip yourself of the physicality of it and replace what you thought used to fill you up with what was already inside of you. Because oftentimes the addictions are very depleting. It's very, very depleting of your life force energy, and it shows on the outside. Believe me. Heed my warnings. So, another shadow side can be measuring worth through possessions, luxury, or being kept. Keeping things or being kept by someone. That's very dangerous for a woman. Very dangerous. And men as well, but very dangerous mentality. Stubborn attachment, resistance to change. But when Taurus is mastered, it becomes magnetism through integrity. I know what I value and I live it accordingly. I live through it. I embody it. There's going to be things in life and experiences in life that test my morals, that test who I claim I am. But intuition, this is not just discernment. This is where the intuition comes in. That gut feeling of, am I meant to be here? Am I supposed to be with this person? That intuition will come in quick. I trust it. I trust mine wholeheartedly. That is the gift that I was born with. That is the gift that most women were born with. And most people as well. I want to say all people, but it's hard to tell in this society where people, instead of stripping themselves of their material possessions, they've stripped themselves of the internal possessions, the intuition, the spirituality that they have inside, what they were born with. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. And that's why it's hard to tell within yourself as well, especially in this modern day age, for sure. But let's move on. So Libra, again, I mentioned the balancing of the scales, harmonizing, politics, aesthetics, relational intelligence as well. Intelligence having to do with the fact that Libra is cardinal air. So here Venus shows up as charm, elegance, diplomacy, partnership, orientation, fairness, balance, social grace, style and presentation as social power, glamour magic. Okay. The ability to read the room and move energy toward agreement. Libra, Venus archetype says, I'm beautiful in how I relate. I create balance. I curate experiences. I make things feel right. Okay. This archetype is going to show up in many different people, different ways. The way I would see, those I statements. It's internal. You have to find where this archetype shows up for you. So the shadow side, especially because Libra Venus in the shadow side, it can be that people pleasing. It can be indecision. I see that often in air signs. I have a lot of air placements. So the people pleasing and the indecision, girl. Over reliance on being liked. That's the season that I'm in. I'm getting put into situations and being tested where I really have to sit down and meditate and pray and make sure that I know that I am already whole. I came here with all of my gifts and my destiny, not forsworn. I just had to live it. I had to live through it. So, it could also be the shadow self with Libra. It could also be losing the self in the mirror of partnership. So a mastered Libra, that sovereignty, it becomes like a social artistry, and not just how you relate to others or you're social with others, but how you know, relate to yourself. And again, that what I mentioned of like perception as leverage. I did not coin that term. That's Miss Lil Sheba Babylon, who I learned that from. But I wholeheartedly believe that this shows up in these archetypes of Venus that we're talking about, especially when we're talking about social artistry and being social and relating to others and being in community with people. Because, you know, when you choose harmony and don't abandon yourself to get it, it's like, oh my God, I'm free. I'm free. Harmony doesn't always mean that you're around people all the time. I'm projecting when I say this because I don't always need to be around people in order to feel harmonized, in order to feel grounded, in order to feel whole. I've always been that way as a child. So Taurus is more of the like bodily, somatic archetype of Venus, and Libra would be Venus from a intelligence standpoint, and in the social field as well. But when we, in terms of the social field, body and mind is, you know, it's there. It's working together. Yeah. So, in Arabic astrology, Venus's dignities, conditions, and practical delineations, Arabic and medieval astrologers inherited Hellenistic techniques and added refinements. So one of the big themes is Venus isn't judged only by sign meaning, but by condition, dignity, placement, visibility, relationships to other planets. From that perspective, Venus signifies affection, pleasure, ornament, music, social standing, ease in relationships and agreements, artistry and refinement. And in many delineations, women's topics, beauty, perfumes, adornment, women's health, biology, spirituality, other goddess archetypes. So Arabic astrology often emphasizes how Venus is operating. Is Venus strong by dignity in Taurus, Libra, or exalted in Pisces in the later medieval frameworks? Is Venus harmed by harsh aspects to Saturn and Mars? These are questions to ask oneself when looking at the at your chart. Those harsh aspects would be squares, it would be semi-squares, it would be oppositions, the houses that they're in, the degrees that they are at. Trying to think of other things, but I'm blanking. And then another question would be: is Venus in a place that makes it public or hidden? Is it in the top half of the chart or bottom half? Even if it's in the top half of the chart, sometimes if it's in the 12th house, then Venus significations can be pretty hidden. So Venus, another question would be, does Venus promise ease in alliances? Does it show desire entangled with duty, fear, or conflict? Again, that fear, obligation, and guilt that I talked about, that so many women suffer from. Release your attachment to making decisions out of fear, obligation, and guilt. I am working my ass off to make sure that I am out of the fog in so many aspects of my life. All of them. I want to be balanced. That takes shadow work. That takes time. I'm not rushing myself. Neither should you. So Arabic astrology makes Venus practical. It asks, is Venus supported, or is Venus paying a price to be loved? Something to think about. So let's talk about Venus, glamour magic, in Lilith. Self-mastery and the unpunishable woman. Talked about this a little bit. Miss Lilith, Sheba, Babylon. Not everybody. Prepare to be triggered. That's all I'll say. Okay? Prepare to be triggered. Okay? That's the only way sometimes to realize oneself, to actualize oneself, to ascend, to master oneself. You gotta be triggered. Okay? You got to be triggered. You just have to be. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Okay? So let's bring it home. Venus is a lived practice. I spoke about this a little bit kind of throughout the video. Glamour magic. It's not an illusion. I have that Justin Timberlake's. Is it Justin Timberlake? Just an illusion. That line, that song. It's just an illusion. It's intentional radiance. I put this on. I set the cameras up. Very intentional. I'm intentional with a lot of things. When I live life intentionally, girl, was I looking like this? Nope. Did I still have my beauty? Did my face still look like this? The facial structure was the same. Yes. But as I glamour myself, and I always have. I've always been very, Barbie princess, all the things. Like, I watched all the Barbie movies. I watched all the Barbie shows. I had all the Barbie dolls. I watched all the princess movies. I was, mermaids, all the things. Just very feminine. Very, very feminine. And I love it. There's something so fabulous about it. And especially as a young woman now, bringing this intentionality into glamour magic. The way people respond to me now is very interesting on multiple fronts. The jealousy that gets thrown my way, the projection that gets thrown my way. She-Ra 7 has a... Ooh, I tried to get this fly. She-Ra 7 has a really good video on Beauty is a Double-Edged Sword is the title. And I wholeheartedly resonate with that, because no matter what a woman looks like, there's still elements and aspect of her essence that are seen as beautiful to certain people in the society that are predatory. So glamour magic is something to be done intentionally, because when you don't have the whether, because you're gonna learn real quick. Okay, how people perceive you and how your beauty, how you glamoring yourself inside and out will make people act up. Because it does. It really does. And you have to be careful about what environments you put yourself into because of that. That's why I mentioned Lilith. Because people are going to try and punish you when you stand on your business and you mind the business that pays you. They will come for you. So prepare to be, Venus morning star and be a little bit more, dare I say, warrior-like, huntress-like. Lure them in and know what you're going to do to them when you lure them in. I'm no BS, okay? I talk about all this magic stuff, but when we're going to talk about esoteric truths, best believe I'm going to be mentioning how human nature and the predatory nature of humans, men and women. Human nature to me is naturally, dare I say, maybe not evil, but a bit more gray area. A bit more yondir, dare I say. Listen, we didn't survive all of these tens of thousands of years from it being cute and cuddly. Evolution and Mother Nature is a bitch, okay? And we love her, all right? And she's gonna be bitchy to us. She's been bitchy to me, okay? She's gonna be a bitch to you. And you're gonna have to be triggered, and you're gonna have to learn to roll with the punches. And glamour magic is absolutely a part of that. When I mention glamour magic, I'm not talking about deception. I'm talking about intentional radiance. You know, how a woman does her makeup, what outfits you wear, what colors you wear, color magic. It's how you amplify what you intuitively feel is you, and then present it in a way that, and you wear it in such a way that people just can't help but recognize it. Sometimes women aren't even aware of the glamour that they carry. Be wearing a paper sack. I'm teasing. But still, like I'm thinking of Marilyn Monroe and in the paper sack. Fabulous. Gorgeous. That's the type of glamour that has people wanting to destroy you. And look at how she went down. Venus glamour is the art of curating appearance as a language. First impressions, you know, what you wear communicates things to people before you even open your mouth. I'm sure a lot of people, when I was presenting myself all cute and pretty, they weren't expecting me to come out with the level of intelligence and knowledge that I know. I still recognize it with people that are around me and close to me. They are oftentimes offended and disgusted by the facts and the knowledge that I carry, because the things that I know make people triggered, and it forces people to see themselves in ways that they do not want to see themselves. A lot of people cannot stand to look at themselves in the mirror, but also in here. Okay? They can't stand the visual of what they've done, of what they've said. I couldn't stand it either. I get it. It's disgusting sometimes. It like I like an ego death, you know. It's like a disgusting feeling sometimes to look at yourself. But it's also so gratifying as well when you're like, damn, that's me. I have the power to change it. Or I don't want to change it, and I'm going to stand in my motherfucking power until that shit ain't working for me anymore. Even if it ain't. It's me, and I accept it. Period. So Venus glamour is also, it's not, you know, just, it's the curating appearance as language. Visually and internally. The essence and the energy of how you carry yourself. The light that you bring. Using scent. Okay, scent, color, texture, adornment is spell work. Different things that I think of when I think of Venus and scent. I think of jasmine. I think of honeysuckle. I think of rose. Okay, rose being a very, very powerful, old and esoteric flower. A lot of magical power and prowess behind the archetype of the rose. So colors like pink, red, yellow, green, white, or like an eggshell kind of color, kind of Easter colors. I think of that. Adornment as spell work, whether it's real or not, jewelry. Okay, my skin reacts poorly to brass and nickel based metals, so I have to wear 925 sterling silver or gold, 18 karat and up. And adornment as spell work. The essence and the energies and the frequencies behind those metals are also very important as well. If you go onto Shira's spiritual channel, some of the it's just her whole channel in general. It's just it's a whole library of information. Not her, yeah, her spiritual channel is not Shira 7, it's Shira Goddess. So I, that's the two archetypes of that. I don't want to get too much into it, but you'll hear her mention throughout her teachings that her embodiment of the Venusian and feminine archetype of a woman that is self-mastered, of a woman that is truly in her power, maybe not so self-mastered because she's married, but self-mastered in the sense that she focuses on herself. She focuses on her spiritual ascension. And that is more apparent and more grounded in her spiritual channel. Her other channel, that's for the masses. And you can see the difference in the numbers on those channels. There's like a difference of like 400,000 to 500,000 subscribers from her more popular channel and the spiritual channel. And that's not on purpose. Most people can't handle these esoteric truths. Most people can't handle the shadow work that comes with self-mastery. It is, again, that ego death that I described. People are disgusted to look at themselves. I am sometimes too, to look at myself and to look at what I've done and to look at what I've said. But it took knowledge and learning more and in turning myself inside out, descending into the underworld, ascending again. It helped all of these glamoring things amplify even more. Glamoring is also the art of shaping posture, voice, pacing, presence. You see how I'm speaking to you right now? I'm not yelling. I'm very quiet. I might be passionate, but my pacing is relaxed. It's true. I notice that women that might be a little bit more unsure of themselves or insecure, I notice that when they're in my presence, they speak a lot faster. Sometimes the voice is rough and it's harsh. The pacing is quick. The presence is disembodied. The posture is slouched, shoulders in, insecure. A lot of women are insecure. I catch myself doing that too. Oh, no. I'm so ashamed. Clutching my pearls. Oh, no. But, you know, the body speaks. The body speaks. Refining the environment, lighting, music, aesthetics. I have bright lights on me, typically at 6:42 p.m. I don't have these bright lights on me. I don't like bright lights at all, actually. I like my bright light and my blue light from the sun, honey, from the sun. And even then, during this summer SoCal sun, honey, I haven't been in it very long because it'd be draining my energy. So lighting for me, I love a little soft light, girl. I love a soft light. Okay, I'm not having too many lights on. After this, I'm gonna go walk my dogs in the nice evening sun, and then I'm gonna just relax and just vibe. I might put on some nice music. Lately I've been listening to like ancient Mesopotamian Sumerian music. The flute, honey, that's also a symbol of Venus. Beautiful. And the harp as well. But the flute, oh girl. I used to play the flute in 5th grade too. I'm like, yes. So this helps this helps create a space where my energy can land softly and it can resonate and I can feel safe. I can feel like I can open up and be seen and explore the deeper parts of my mind that I am, you know, that need to be seen. So things of ways to work your intuition into the glamour magic is like what you're just typically drawn to when you get dressed in the morning. So I can always tell how somebody's feeling based off of how they get dressed. It can be, you know, what do I want to be felt as today? Maybe I'm projecting when I see how people dress, but, you know, I think how people present themselves is especially in this society, is very telling. It's very telling. Most people don't dress up like me during the day. This is something that I would wear out. But most people don't dress like me during the day. I don't really live in a city where people are doing that anyways. Most people are going out wearing leggings, unless you're like a yoga teacher or you're going to the gym. Why are you wearing leggings? Why are you wearing leggings, especially you ladies? Like, the dress is right there, especially in this heat, honey. Like, we don't need the microplastics to be creating a sauna right by our essence. Like, they've been linked, the microplastics, to cervical cancer. Come on, let's be honest now. Let's be for real. So it's not just that. It's what I want to be felt as today. What do I want to feel? How do I feel today? Or not just how do I feel. If you're feeling sad, how are you going to alchemize that emotion? If you're feeling a little bit down, how are you going to alchemize that emotion? Glamour magic can absolutely do that. Even though there have been times that I feel sad, I'll still get dressed up. I'll do a full beat. I'll put my, nicest clothes on. Sometimes I'll wear a heel. I might not always feel great. I might not always feel like centered and grounded, but I know that my energy is not going to be taken down even further by wearing frumpy clothes or something like that, or, swathing myself in very big sweatshirts. Like, I'm very proud of the body that I have, and I do not mind showing it off at all. I'm very proud of it. I worked hard for it. Athlete for 15 plus years. I worked hard to be able to not just exist in this body mentally, but physically as well. So those are certain things that I think of when glamoring myself. What do I want to feel today? Do I want to feel soft? Do I want to feel untouchable? Do I want to feel regal? Do I want to be approachable, radiant, a little bit dangerous, or a lot of it dangerous? You want to lean into that Pombagira archetype as well. That's another aspect of Venus that I'd like to talk about in a much deeper video, because that science and esoteric magic is very, very deep and very rooted to the archetype of Venus, and is a bit more in line with the Lilith archetype of the unpunishable woman. She is the huntress. Lilith and Pombagira, huntresses, period. Luring people into their demise, just like the siren as well. But luring people into not their demise, but luring people in. The way that I described it is like luring people in. Turning them inside out. Filming it through what you've witnessed in them. Storing it in your mind, turning them inside out again, or outside in, and then having them look at it, having them look at what you witnessed. That takes skill. That's what Shira does effortlessly. That's what Miss Lilith Sheba Babylon does effortlessly. Not without a lack of study and trying and consistent practice. But sometimes people don't want to look at themselves, so it's inevitable that they're going to come across a woman like them, or even me, that's going to tell them about themselves. Whether or not we actually have to say anything, sometimes we just be existing and people feel it. Not that I'm comparing myself to them or comparing them to each other, because we're each our own in our own divine right. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of these archetypes as well. So you can choose whatever kind of correspondences you want to match that feeling that you want to embody, that archetype that you want to embody. It goes in not just to the clothes, it's the color of them, it's the jewelry, it's the perfume, it's the hairstyle, it's or the cologne. This is for men as well, because men are very Venusian. I know I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, but there are men that carry themselves well, men that dress well. The opposite to Pambajira, the feminine archetype, would be Eshu, the gentleman, um, the pimp, even. But the gentleman more so because, that he's seen as a protector of women, provider of women, of the feminine archetype, not without, having some sort of trade, of course. But because the universe runs off of trade, most gentlemen, anyways. But, men cologne, it could be, bathhouses, it could be, getting a massage, it could be, you know, I don't know, indulgence, lighting a cigar or eating a decadent food or treating themselves after working hard, that sort of thing. And same for women as well. It could be the music, the playlist, like I mentioned, the flute. It's whatever helps you world build this this day. To me, each day is a world that I'm living in, a new world. I wake up and I'm like, okay, what am I going to create today? How am I going to expound on the long-term goals that I have? And I oftentimes do this like absent-mindedly, but in terms of a ritual, you can seal this with a sentence. It's like, I am seen in my value. My presence is persuasive. I receive without guilt. It's especially powerful for women because the world trains women. Like I said before, it trains women into traps of like, be desirable, but you don't know you're desirable. Be nurturing, but you don't need anything back. I've seen women in my life and all around the globe give and give and give and give. A relationship could fall apart. It's not even her fault necessarily. It takes two to tango, I know. She wasn't necessarily the catalyst, maybe, but the person with the power always gets blamed the most. Even if the man did her real dirty or the woman did her real dirty, the woman will always get blamed because she holds the power. Okay? And more power, with great power comes great responsibility. Responsibility is not just what you typically might think of like, okay, I got to, show up for this. It kind of is. It's the ability to respond if you break it down. Oh, my dog is howling. I am cracking up. She is so cute. Um, so Venus mastery can say, I can be beautiful and sovereign, but I can receive and still have boundaries. Listen, Lilith as a Venus counter archetype, and it's not even a counter necessarily. It's what is, because oh my god, like I can't wait for the day when people don't see things through a narrow-minded lens, not just from a spiritual and esoteric lens, but also from a scientific perspective as well. That's why the scientific damn, I'm blanking. That's not good, girl. The scientific method. That's why the scientific method is set up in the way that it is. Okay, the scientific method ends with not a conclusion. It ends with look for more. That's what it ends with. So that you start that cycle all over again. Okay? so that you can find more, so that it was set up specifically so that people did not view things through a narrow-minded lens, and they got stuck in the trap of never changing. So look at things not just kaleidoscopically, but from a multifaceted and universal lens. We can get kind of trapped in this like archetypal classifications, significations, especially in astrology, but especially in life. But what's helpful is to realize that, and even Marvel will tell you this, y'all, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, there's multiple universes out there. Ours is simply one of thousands, hundreds, millions even. It's always so much bigger than that. It's not just a counter archetype. It's what is. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It just is. Your projections, your biases, your discernment, even your intuition is what determines certain classifications, archetypes, significations, you name it. Continue. So, why Lilith as a Venus archetype matters is, I'm going to handle this with respect. Lilith is often treated as a taboo feminine, the one who didn't submit, the one who refused domestication. In my framing, the unpunishable woman, often living by her own standards. So why I bring Lilith into Venus, and I spoke about this before, is because one, Lilith is a woman, and Venus rules over all women. And because Venus, like I mentioned before, can become this addiction to approval. And often that addiction to approval, what's beneath that is an addiction to suffering. And if we're not careful, and even just from a biblical lens, honey, child, the addiction to suffering is in this story. If we're not careful, performing sweetness for safety, fawning, harmonizing out of fear, obligation or guilt, seeking love in exchange for self-erasure. Ooh, did I just say that? Yes, I did. Lilith cuts through that. Lilith is the one that says, I do not bargain with my dignity. I will not be made smaller so someone else feels powerful. It shows up differently in the modern world because there are still major systems in place that subjugate women. And many women like it. Many women like to feel subjugated. Many women like to be under the thumb of men. They enjoy it, whether it be their sons, their fathers, their uncles, their boyfriends, their husbands. Yes. I refuse roles built on fear, obligation, or guilt. Like I mentioned that before. I did that earlier today. I performed a role out of obligation, fear, and guilt. It's harder to do with family, I notice, but it's easier to do for me nowadays with certain acquaintances, friends, community members. I left that behind. I did it very recently. I won't lie. I won't lie. I still do it. But it's what I do after. It's how I change after. It's can I stand in my power when Life, an opportunity in life comes to test me. I said that before. I was like, I claim a lot of these morals and classifications about myself and significations, and I'm like this, I am this. But then situations in life come in to test me and test my resolve, and I fold. I'm like, what? Girl, I thought you said that we were this. Like, what's going on? So I have to come back to myself. I have to go back in. I have to pray. I have to meditate. And I'm like, okay, it might take some time, but let's workshop this a little bit more. Let's workshop this a little bit more. And we'll see when a situation arises again, can you stand on business? So the contrast with that archetype and some of those things would be the Neptunian archetype. Again, Venus exalted in Pisces. So Neptune in its shadow, though, even though it's exalted, in its shadow, it can blur boundaries. And exaltation doesn't mean it's perfect. Exaltation, think of a king, think of a queen. Think of Queen Charlotte. Think of these nobles that are exalted in society, exalted in the public eye. Think of how the golden child is exalted in the family, but in its shadow, it can blur those boundaries. It can confuse longing for love with longing for rescue. Not necessarily in the like nobleman and golden child and those types of things, but Neptune can really blur boundaries. I think we just got out of Neptune in Pisces actually. Now we're in Neptune in Aries. But Neptune and Pisces, honey, those 12 years, what was going on? Did y'all feel that? Because that was crazy. It can confuse longing for love with longing for rescue. You know, that kind of like anxious attachment sort of thing, and you know, codependency as well, romance with disillusion, fantasy with truth. Dude, like it can be detrimental to men and women. Delulu is not always Trolulu, okay? Sometimes truth needs to be truth, and disillusionment needs to remain disillusionment. Differentiate the two. When you start mixing things together, you start to lose yourself real quick. Lilith is sharp. It is clean truth sometimes. It is no is a complete sentence. The integration is Venus gives you magnetism and artistry. It gives you sovereignty, consequence-free self-definition, self-mastery, self-respect, inner knowing. It's glamour without self-betrayal. Because I see women that glamour themselves on the outside and they'll still betray themselves. Ding, 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 ding. Yes. Yes. These are huge, very, very deep things. They go so much deeper than what I've been able to cover here. But overall, Venus in Hellenistic astrology is not a pretty planet. She is a cosmic teacher of pleasure with discernment, beauty with intention, relationship without self-erasure, radiance that returns after the underworld. And if you remember anything, remember this, that your Venus is not your mask. Your Venus is your value made visible. Thank you so much for joining me for this other video. I have an Instagram, I have this YouTube, and you can also book personal sessions with me via the link in my bio. I'll also link it in the description box of this video as well. Check out my other videos that detail some of the topics that we spoke on today. Comment down below what sign your Venus planet is in, what house as well. whether it's a day or night chart. And yeah, take care, be well, and peace and many blessings. And I will see you guys in the next one.